Imagine it is 1962. You are a USA soldier. You have enlisted to fight in the Vietnam War that started because of South Vietnam not wanting to be communist, which the USA involves itself in. You fight for your country and you get brought into a mission called Operation Ranch Hand.
They tell you that it is safe and this is only going to harm Viet Cong's resources. You agreed to participate, but little did you know that this, Operation Ranch Hand, would cost you so much more than you thought.
This is Agent Orange.
Agent Orange should have never been spread under the Vietnam War because it violated the responsibility the USA government had and rights of innocent citizens and soldiers, as well as permanently destroying the land and waters of Vietnam, not to mention causing mutations and other rare diseases to the people.
Many people don't understand the truth about the real circumstances of the U.S. soldiers. The U.S. soldiers did not know the full effect of the chemicals until they started to piece their experiences together of Agent Orange and the effects it had on them. But even then, they were denied any compensation or acknowledgement of their struggles because of Agent Orange.
A contaminant in Agent Orange to birth defects in laboratory animals, the spraying of this herbicide was discontinued in 1970. The herbicide was also eventually banned in the U.S. That did not stop the growing concern about Agent Orange, which took a new turn a few years after the last American soldier had left Vietnam in 1975.
Milton Ross, a Special Forces advisor near Pleiku, has a son born without the tips of his fingers.
Frank Moore is nearly dead from cancer. He thinks the cancer was caused by chemical defoliants he was exposed to as a soldier in Vietnam.
More than 1,300 Vietnam vets have filed claims for Agent Orange contamination. Not one has been honored.
We want an investigation of the Veterans Administration. We want the American people to listen to us.
The Vietnam veterans, for years, were screaming for attention, screaming for help.
Many of my brothers have died when you sat up there and played political bullshit.
Gentlemen, we can't wait 20, 30, 40 years.
The government said a lack of scientific consensus stood in the way of much being done.
We don't mean to say that there isn't an Agent Orange effect, but at this point in time, we don't seem to see anything that confirms that there's something there specifically.
As you can see, this wasn't just some silly thing that was easily resolved. It took decades for the government to begin to take these poor veterans seriously, and that is something that is not getting the recognition that it deserves.
The USA and the South Vietnamese government had a responsibility to protect their people. And while most of the times they did try to do so, Agent Orange was one of the mistakes that they made in an effort to defend their people.
The USA government sprayed the chemicals of Agent Orange for nearly 10 years, giving them time to investigate what the side effects of this could be. They knew that this could harm the environment of Viet Cong, but they did not consider how this could influence their people likewise.
The outcome of Agent Orange was devastating. Out of 3 million of USA military personnel that served during the Vietnam War, 1.5 million were highly exposed because they served during the time of when these chemicals were most released. Not to mention the 4 million Vietnamese citizens, including children, that were disclosed to have been exposed to these chemicals too.
This would not have been such a big deal if Agent Orange did not contain the herbicides it did inside. By numerous statistics and experiments that were conducted on the effects that Agent Orange had on people, it was clear that the people that were exposed had a much more elevated risk of cancer.
But it did not just end there. In a lot of cases, the children that the soldiers or Vietnamese had were often born with unusual disabilities, and if they were not, usually the children would have a strong likelihood of dying early because of their high possibility of cancer as well.
Studies even show that the exposure of Agent Orange could even negatively affect things like blood, adipose tissue, or breast milk. Other things that have been manipulated by Agent Orange also includes shrimp and fish in Vietnam. They can contain an abnormally high amount of TCDD, a chemical compound that was in Agent Orange, which is toxic. And the marine species can also be mutated because of it too.
This wraps up the rights and responsibilities of Agent Orange. summarizing how wrongly it was used and how it damaged people, among other things. It shows that mistakes are made, some that people do not want to own up to, but that they should be learned from and accepted to move on. That is the whole point of history, to not repeat the thoughtlessness and wrongdoings that other people committed.